Hello and welcome to Aero League Racing GT7 Season 19 calendar and tier reveal. My name is Rostom. I'm one of the admins who does all the organising and the behind the scenes work for getting this all set up, and we're doing something a little bit different this time round. We are doing it on YouTube as opposed to me drip feeding slowly throughout an entire day the tiers and everyone getting themselves into a bit of a panic when I drop it on because they're not in the tier that they expect to be and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, just one video. We're going to go through the calendar, we're going to go through the tiers, we're going to go through everything to do with the upcoming season of Aero League Racing. And with that, let's start with prize money. We got prize money once again. Always have to say a big thank you to Patreon, which is responsible for pretty much 99% of the money that we get at ALR. We get almost nothing from YouTube, which is lovely, but yeah, really worth getting to the threshold of getting monetized. We get I think we might have earned less than a $5 in total since that happened. So yeah, really big thanks to Patreon, because without that we couldn't offer the prize money that we offer. So let's go through what everyone is entitled to win if they can finish in these spots in their championship. So the tier 1 champion is getting €40 / pounds / dollars, depending on where you are in the world, if they manage to win it. The runner-up and third place in tier 1 also get prize money, so that's 20 and 10 respectively. And then for the single tier 2 that we're having, so a bit of an announcement, we're only having 7 tiers this season. One tier 2, just like in season 17, they'll get £25. Tier 3 will get 20. We're going to have 2 tier 3s again, so that's £20 each. The same for tier 4, £15 or euros or dollars each for the 2 champions there. And for the single tier 5, it will be a tenner. Esports, we're doing esports again. We've got 12 teams coming up for the next season, which esports will start just before the Monday League starts, I think, is still the plan. So that is 100 for the champions and 25 for the runners-up, just like last season. And just at the bottom, we're continuing the daily doubles. These are happening even in off-season. There's going to be one this week, so check that to see which layout we're going to be at this week. I think there's 3 pretty decent tracks and car combinations this week, which is nice because sometimes they're a little bit janky. So yeah, you win a tenner if you manage to win that. If we get more than 8 drivers in a lobby for the daily double, then that is a valid race in line with ALR rules, and you could win a tenner. So yeah, it's not bad. I think we've had different winners of every single daily double as well. So yeah, if you're good at a specific car or a specific track, it's definitely worth it if you practice the daily races anyway. So yeah, that's all the prize money. Not too much change from last season, to be honest. Calendar. So here is your first look at the calendar. We are starting on the 4th of August at Suzuka. It's going to be an afternoon race there, so it's the first time in quite a while that we've been at Suzuka. This is going to be a pretty exciting opener. We've opened here it before, and yeah, there is also the possibility to rain there. And then the week after, we are going to Alsace Village, which is a very tight and twisty, low-speed bop track, high on tyre wear, and yeah, a real test for everyone. You need to practice that one if you don't know the track very well. Then we're going to our Patreon pick. So this is the pick that the Patreon subscribers all voted for, and this is the one that went out. We're at Interlagos, which you may remember has always been fairly popular in ALR. Once it beat out Mount Panorama quite controversially in the returning track vote as well. So yeah, always good at winning the votes is Interlagos. Then we are finishing the first half of the season off at Daytona again, which was the final round of last season. It beat the Nürburgring Nordschleife for the returning track vote by a single vote in the end. So very dramatic vote that was, the closest one we've ever had. But that one won out. So the first high-speed track on the calendar is Daytona. And then we're going back to a low speed for round 5, Sardinia B, which we haven't been at for over a year in ALR on Mondays. It's a pretty good layout. I think A is the high-speed layout. This is the low-speed layout. A little bit of a shorter track. Still has the very long pit straight though. And then for round 6, we're doing something completely brand new. You may have noticed that we raced at Monza without the chicane at the Race of Champions a couple of seasons ago, and it was quite a success. Very few incidents. I don't think it matters if you're braking for the first chicane or the second chicane in Monza. It's still, fairly likely that you're going to have an accident. But there wasn't actually that many in the Race of Champions. So hopefully by the time round 6 comes round, you all know each other well enough to avoid a first lap incident and to be a little bit more careful. And you know your car a little bit better as well. So that is going to be an incredibly long run down to the first corner from the final corner. Quite similar to Tokyo East from a couple of seasons ago in terms of length. So take that into account when you're car testing. Now, round 7. Some of you might be sick of Spa by the time we get to this point, because we are on Saturday doing a 12-hour race. We're going to Spa again. It hasn't been on the Monday calendar for quite a while, so it's going to be a wet race, but we're not going to give too many details out at this point as to what that looks like. We'll announce it a little bit later on in the season, but there is also a wet stint happening on Saturday. So if you're racing in the wet stint in the 12-hour event in the off season, that might give you a little bit of practice for Monday League as well. And then we are finishing the season at one of my favorite circuits. It's Trail Mountain. I always call it Trial Mountain. It should be called Trial Mountain, I think, because it is a trial to get round that track, but it's a very, very solid one. Lots of walls, lots of little mountains you can accidentally crash into or bump other people into. Some really long straights as well. A great end to this season 19. So yeah, the settings are still going to be on 2 times tyre wear, 3 times fuel. The feature settings is going to be on 5 times tyre wear, 3 times fuel. And that's basically all you need to know for the calendar. So let's move on to the Reserve Championship. So, because we're doing 7 tiers, just to be fully clear, if we could have done 8, we would have done 8. But we had about 7.5 full-time drivers in terms of who signed up, and not that many reserves signed up. It is the summer. People have, their lives. People have stuff to do, so it's completely understandable. So what we're going to do in its place is have the Reserve Championship, just like we did in season 17 when we had 7 tiers. All reserves who don't get a spot in the main race, you can still practice, you'll still be able to race in the Reserve Championship. The winner will receive a special role on Discord as well. It is a full championship. It's not going to have prize money. But to kind of factor in maybe being called up into the main tiers, only 6 out of the 8 rounds will count towards the championship. So there are drop rounds in this. So if you practice and you don't get a spot in the main race, you are still going to be able to race on Monday nights somewhere in ALR regardless. Now, I think the next slide is going to be the tiers. So if I'm right, here is your first tier, tier 5 for season 19. It is the tier reveal, and here we go. So the seeded drivers all have a little blue bubble around them and the little S next to their name. We've got 4 that actually we have demoted from tier 4 from last season. We've got Eric of Canada, I2.OG, also known as HK. He's been in tier 5 before. He's been around for quite a while. Revelit is going to give tier 5 a go. I think he's really persevered in tier 4 for the last 2 or 3 seasons, and kind of struggled for results and showed good pace in flashes. So maybe tier 5 is the right place for him to kind of build a bit of confidence and get some good results. Then we got Schalke Boss, who's in his first full season of tier 5, just like Eric of Canada. And the last seeded driver is Jarl, who is a steward with us and also has performed pretty good for the last couple of seasons, has just missed out on a full championship challenge though. And then the unseeded drivers, you may be surprised to see Supercracker, who was the runner-up, is unseeded. But I think he only really beat Jarl because Jarl missed a round. And then we've got a lot of regulars here. We've got Young Sappy, we've got Inorganic, we've got Fudo, and we've got Gaz. All regulars for tier 5. Apocalypse as well. The Birds is in his first full season in ALR after joining midway through last season. Then we've got Lord Hans, who's going to be your host once again in Tier 5. We've got Boyan, we've got Quackhouse, who's coming back after a season off, and we've got Deadliest Magikarp, who's also known as Banana, which is very confusing when you're trying to figure out who's who. But yeah, it makes up our list of 15. And our reserves are going to be Gerovic, Circus, I think is how you say it, Knowing Light, Zero K, and Mikey. And also, just to clarify, if you see your name in the reserves as opposed to in the full-time slots, it's not a mistake. Like I said, we did have too many people sign up. We had some people sign up incredibly late for the season as well. And that after the tiers were already made, so they just got put straight into the reserves. If you're fairly new to ALR, unfortunately, you'll be starting out in the reserves, which is kind of a rite of passage anyway. And also, if you did race last season and you didn't really turn up much, we've put you as a reserve as well, because we've had to prioritize the people that show up. So yeah, we had to be a little bit more brutal than last season, where we were able to just kind of give pretty much everyone a full-time spot. But that's what has to happen when you're organising a league. So there's your Tier 5. Banned cars, Lexus M6. The Nissan GTR GT500s is somehow a banned car. The AMG, the new one, and the new GTR as well. So, yeah, 4 good cars banned. 1 crazy car, which no one ever would have dreamed of picking, surely got banned. But still plenty of good ones out there. Tap is going to be your helper for the season. And your commentator, I'm pretty sure, is going to be JP Greenwood again. So, wrong way. Tier 4 White, the first of the 2 Tier 4s. Again, we actually have 4 drivers who've been demoted, and then 1 driver who stays in Tier 4. So the demoted drivers are Mo Gaffer, who's been here for quite a while now. He's going to give Tier 4 a go and have a championship push. We've got Effenberg in his first full season after joining last season as well. Actually, no, I think last season was a full season as well. Not sure if he started out as full-time, though. Anyway, Jezza has actually won a Tier 4 championship before, quite a few seasons ago now. So he might be a dark horse to watch out for. And we've got Fracas, who's going to be the lobby host and also the helper for this tier. So Fracas only did 1 season in Tier 3 and has dropped back down again. Excuse me. The final seed is going to be Danger Mouse, who's always been a Tier 4 driver. Always has managed to get very consistent results, like top 5 pretty much every week, but has struggled to get race wins, whereas his teammates always manage to nick 1 or 2. So if Danger Mouse can find an extra 10th or 2, or maybe just have a little bit more good fortune in the races, he might be able to get those race wins, which could propel him potentially to a championship. We'll have to see. Now, for the reserves, we have Austin Les, who was a fellow Jaguar driver like me last season. Did pretty well in some rounds and getting wins, and in others struggled outside the top 10. So it's a consistency issue for Austin keeping him in Tier 4 currently. We have Obi-Wan, who's usually gets 1 or 2 race wins as well at this level. Also in real life friends with Danger Mouse, so I expected them to team up and potentially put a Constructors title push together. Got Captain Adamka, who is another one who's in his first couple of seasons with ALR. Excited to see what he can do now that he's got a season under his belt. Same goes for Fred Monster, who is a little bit like Austin, can perform very high and sometimes performs a little bit low when you're looking at the results. And Chaos Druid, who's been here for quite a while now, has started out in Tier 5 and I think he's got race wins in Tier 4 now as well, so he's improving nicely. On the second row, we've got Blade Runner, who is quite similar to Chaos, has been in Tier 5, but is pretty solid Tier 4 driver now. Got Dex Pip, who's won races, had a season off. Actually, him and Obi-Wan both won the Blue Dragon sim rigs in the draw in the off-season, so those two might get a little bit of an extra performance step up once they get their rigs assembled and they get used to them. I'm excited to see how that goes. We have Nordy as well, who performed very well, actually did the Race of Champions a couple of weeks ago as well. Schumacher Another one who's kind of like Chaos and Blade Runner, had a similar kind of run, started in Tier 5, is now a solid Tier 4 driver. Then we have two drivers that we've promoted. One is our Tier 5 champion, Gum, who did very well last season to win at the very end. And we've got Grin, who's fairly new driver, but showed a lot of pace in his first race with us, expecting him to do a little bit. Well, he's around people that he is a bit closer in pace with, but I actually think he could win in this lobby throughout the season as well. So another dark horse there. As for the reserves, we got NTO, we got Chips. Chips is actually demoted from Tier 3. We've given him a couple of seasons in Tier 3 as a reserve, and he struggled to get the results. So let's see how he gets on in Tier 4. He is a former bottom tier winner. I can't remember if it was a Tier 5 or a Tier 6 at the time, but he absolutely destroyed everyone in that season. Then we have a newbie, Panitza, and another newbie, Master Destroyer. We got RBR Steve again, who I don't think has actually ever raced on Monday, but he has signed up a few times. So let's hope that he starts joining. And we've got Udale joining back as well as a reserve after some time off. So let me just have a cup of tea. It's starting to go cold because I'm talking so much. Right, so that is Tier 4 white. Let's have a look at the other Tier 4. And comms, by the way, is going to be... it says Gunman. It's Gunmad. It's going to be having a go. And if you were in his tier last season where he wasn't able to do comms, it's because he was in the middle of moving. But he's going to have everything set up and he's going to be back to the usual schedule for this season. So, Tier 4 blue. Again, we're going to have 4 drivers demoted and 2 drivers promoted into Tier 4. So Monty will be very pleased to know that he has been put back in Tier 4. He did show a really good pace in the streams that I commentated in Season 17 to get himself a promotion into Tier 3. And it didn't go quite to plan for him. Joining him will be Darlow, who, excuse me, sorry, I just saw... It says that Chin's been demoted, but he hasn't. Anyway, sorry. Yeah, Darlow actually started out in Tier 2. We put him in Tier 3, but he actually struggled a bit in Tier 3 last season as well. So let's give him a go in Tier 4 and see if he could have a good go at it in his first full season in ALR. Then we've got Jin, who is going to be the helper for this tier. He is seeded. I don't think he was demoted. So just ignore that little red dot. Did pretty well last season in Tier 4. I think he finished top 3. Then we've got Xbender X, who showed some good pace in Tier 3, but didn't really get the results. And so we're giving him a shot in Tier 4 as well. And the final seed is going to be Tetropolis, who had a pretty good debut season in this tier. Then we've got Ads, who showed really, really good pace at times last season in Tier 4, but also I think had some disconnects which affected the outcome of a lot of his races. We've got Juhofin, who has been here for donkeys ever since Season 1, and we're on Season 19 now, when it was back in its GT Sport days. So he's always good for a good win or two, sometimes can put up a championship fight as well. JP Greenwood in Tier 4 again. Again, has shown flashes of pace, has been in Tier 5 for a long time, got promoted a few seasons ago and has shown some pretty solid Tier 4 pace. We'll be looking to kick on this season. Then we've got Radiate. I think he started out in Tier 3 and then got demoted to Tier 4 for his first full season last season and is giving Tier 4 another crack. Then we got Orak, our Blue Dragon Racing boyo. I don't know what to say. He's we're not sponsored by them this season. Hopefully they'll be back in the future. He is giving Tier 4 another go. And we've got Slavman, another one who started out in Tier 5 but has won races in Tier 4. Could potentially be a dark horse this season. Same for Beaumont. Beaumont, if he can find the consistency, I think he could put together a really good challenge, at least for the top 5. Then we got J-Nick, who was new last season, is starting his first full season this time around. Excited to see how he gets on. And Munken, another one who's quite similar to Chaos and Blade Runner and Slavman, started out in Tier 5, is in Tier 4, and a pretty solid one at that. Then finally, we've got 2 more drivers who got promoted from Tier 5. Brichetti, who's also known as Mixed Orbit, he was the one who was in the Nissan GT 500 and nearly won the whole thing. So if he gets a better car, could potentially challenge for the championship. Then we got M. Grew as well, who another one who was fairly new last season, but was very impressive in Tier 5 and earned his promotion. Now, we've got reserves here. We got Andrico. I'm going to call him Andrico because that is a hard name for an Englishman to say. He's been unable to do Monday League. I think he did a couple of races in the short track championship last season, which was great, by the way. Next time that comes back, definitely sign up for it. It was the most fun non-Group 3 series that I've done for sure. So he joins as a reserve. Ben Sutt is going to be a reserve as well. Oh God, it's all going wrong. There we go. Kajka? Someone please tell me how to say that. Sir Tracy, Bluebeard, who's going to be coming back. He's been helping out with comms for us, very greatly appreciated. Actually taking over from Black Charizard, who's signed up but didn't do any comms after the first couple of rounds and didn't tell us why, which was lovely and very polite. Thank you for that. And hold on, major incident is... yeah, he's not Master Destroyer, so that's going to be confusing. So he also joins as a newbie in the reserves. The banned cars for both Tier 4s are the same. It's the AMG 16, because unbelievably it won a championship in Tier 4. The Nissan GTR 18, the Mazda RX Vision, the Gen X, and the Porsche 911. Now, Tier 3 White. This is the first of our Tier 3s. Now, you might see some drivers that you're surprised to see in these Tier 3s, because we only have one Tier 2. It means that we've all had to push down a hell of a lot of drivers into the Tier 3s. So these are going to be some competitive Tier 3s this season. We've got Bromy Bulldog, who is in his second full season with us after coming back. We put him in Tier 2. He showed some really good flashes of pace and struggled a little bit sometimes with mistakes in the race as well. So Tier 3 seems about the right place for him. Deco was in the Porsche last season, which kind of ruined every single sprint race because he kind of found himself outside the top 10 after the Porsche starts after qualifying. So another one who I think could be top 3 this season. Kling Beast, who joined midway through last season as a reserve, is going to be full-time this time round. Excited to see what he can do with a bit of preparation pre-season under his belt. And Peachy, a former Tier 3 champion, was in the Corvette last season. And really, kudos for sticking it out, because that looked like an absolutely horrendous car to drive at times. With the tyre wear and also just the general pace of it. So if he gets a good car... He won it in the M6 last time, but the M6 is banned this time. So, no, it's not. That is wrong. Those are the wrong banned cars. Ignore those banned cars. He could potentially drive the M6 again. If I was in this tier, I would be making sure that Peachy does not get the M6, because he just demolished everyone in that car. He knows how to drive it. And then we got Turbo Boy, who right at the end of the season... did incredibly well at Daytona in the Ford GT to get a very solid position. He used to be in Tier 2 for about, I think, 9 seasons in a row. So he has the pace for it. He's dropped off a little bit with the last couple of physics updates. But yeah, and could be potentially be a dark horse, and that is why he's seeded. For the unseeded drivers, we have Fancy Locks, who is another one who a lot of people think could potentially be a Tier 2 driver in the future. It depends if he can put it together across a full season. Hulked had his first full season last season and did really well, actually. Won some races, got plenty of podiums. Youth Cube won on his debut in Tier 3 last season. So I want to know if that was a flash of the pan beginner's luck, or if that's going to lead to something else. El Kochi Coach, kind of similar to Youth Cube, came in, was immediately pretty quick in Tier 3, but like I said, we have stepped up a little bit in these Tier 3s. And then we've got Cherry, who was at the top of his Tier 3 for a while last season, but got pipped to the post at the end. So that's the first half. Then we got Frosty, who won his first race in ALR last season. We have Nath, who's come back to full-time. after taking a season as a reserve. We've got JMS, who loves being in Tier 3 or Tier 4, has spent almost his entire LR career kind of jumping between the two, but he stayed in Tier 3 this time around. And we've got Goose, who's in his, I think, third season. He joined towards the end of Season 17 and stays in Tier 3 once again. And then for the two that have been promoted, we've got Rocket, who has won his second championship last season. This time it was Tier 4. Very solid racing from him. And then D-Dubs, who I think was runner-up. That was probably his best performance in ALR. He's got hundreds, at least 200 races, I reckon, in ALR at this point. And he's going to be given Tier 3 a shot, and I think he could do pretty well as well. But that's the highest I think we've ever placed D-Dubs. And then for the reserves, we've got Geordie, who won Tier 4 a couple of seasons ago. We've got Epsilon Delta, who's fairly new. We've got Trocker, who came back last season. We've got Chiere, I think is how you say it, who is another one who's quite new. And we've got Doe Slayer, who just missed out on the championship to T-Bop, T. Morrison, on the last round. Potentially would have won it if he didn't miss that round himself. And those are not the banned cars. The banned cars are still wrong here. Fancy, what are you doing to me? All right, I'll confirm what the banned cars are, but it's definitely not these ones because I won the championship in the Audi R8, which is why it was banned. So those haven't been updated. So, Tier 3 Blue, we've actually got 5 drivers here that have been demoted. We've got Captain Eli, who actually did really well in Tier 2 last season. He was the last person that I chose to put in Tier 3 this time. So when you think about your predictions, maybe it's worth bearing that in mind that, you know, he I think could mix it with Tier 2. It's just there was literally no space. And you'll see why when I show you what Tier 2 looks like. We've got Spin, who was promoted to Tier 2 just like Eli for the very first time last season and has come back down again with the shrinking of the tiers. Same with Hurricane and with Zab. Both of them made the Tier 2 debuts last season and are seeded now in Tier 3. And what I'm expecting from all 4 of these is they've been in a very competitive tier, Tier 2 for the first time last season. All of them got some, like, the odd fairly decent result, like a top 5 at least a couple of times. And what they'll have gained with the racecraft and with the strategy, seeing what the Tier 2 drivers did last season, they should be able to apply it and really, you know, score a lot more points than the last time they were in Tier 3, essentially. That's my expectation. Let's see what happens. I also didn't say who was the comms for this Tier 3. It's going to be Chips Chiba, who did Tier 4 last season. He's going to be doing Tier 3. The helper for this one is actually going to be Whack. And this one, I'm going to be doing comms for, which is why that prompted me to just explain it. And Giles is going to be the helper for this tier. So, for the unseeded drivers, there are a lot of very fast unseeded drivers. If we were doing 2 Tier 2s again, I think Claus, Pasty, and Jomu, you might know as Musa, would probably have made it up to Tier 2. Because Pasty and Musa really put in a championship charge for at least 6 of the 8 rounds last season against Whack. And Claus, we know, is very, very quick. He was a reserve last season, but has been in Tier 2 before as well. But they are unseeded in Tier 3 with the way that everything's worked out. We've got Clyde Sparrow, who showed really good pace last season. Again, he's another one that needs to find a bit more consistency, but he did take a big step up from his first season with us in Season 17 last time round. Got H-Boss GT, who did win, and he's going to be the host for this season, not O'Leary like this says. H-Boss GT will be the host. O'Leary will be the backup host because apparently his internet can be a little bit funny sometimes, but we'll see how that goes. O'Leary has been here for pretty much forever. Actually, I think he's been in ALR longer than me. We'll have to check that. But yeah, he's back again in Tier 3 Blue. I think him and Pasty won the Constructors last season, so I wonder if they'll team up again. Matthew is going to be making another go at Tier 3. He was, I think, the runner-up in Tier 4 in Season 17, did pretty solidly last season in Tier 3. Didn't race every round, but if he does, could be one to watch. Yuri is always pretty solid in tier 3 as well. He's back again. Started really strongly, I think, last season and was leading the championship at one point. And then we've got 3 promoted from tier 4. We got T Morrison, who is your tier 4 champion. And we have 2 that are friends with each other. Sergeant, who came in and was very quick, and Wolsey, who has shown some pace, but Sergeant has shown more pace in ALR so far. So I'm expecting those 2 to team up and put in some graft. Again, they were in the Corvette last season, and they both still managed to get good results. So if they're in a proper car, I'm not trying to discourage anyone from picking the Corvette, but just know that it's got some serious flaws. Yeah, so they will be making their full-time debuts this season in Tier 3 Blue. And then for the reserves, we've got Throttlegeist, who was in Tier 2 last season. Only did a couple of rounds, so excited to see what he could do in Tier 3. Timvo, who's new. Skycloud, who will be coming back. Then we've got Dr. SD and Gunmad, who have both been here for donkey's years as well. So, nearly there. We only have Tier 2 and Tier 1 to go, and I will make doubly sure that I get the correct graphics for the banned cars for you guys, because that's wrong. And if you guys go off this list, I've told you about 7 times that it's wrong. So, right, Tier 2. This is going to be a very tough tier. This is the tier that I'm in. I'm a little bit intimidated. Anyway, let's go through. We've got all the quickest guys from both Tier 2s last season, and we've got a couple of guys dropping down from Tier 1. We've got Astro. He finished 3rd place in Season 17 in Tier 2, got promoted to Tier 1, did a season in Tier 1, and now is back in Tier 2 again. He's seeded. We've got Tinin Stelian, who has only ever been in Tier 1, has actually won races in Tier 1 as well. He's down in Tier 2 for the first time after a bit of a rough season in the Peugeot. I don't think he enjoyed it, but if he can get a good car, then potentially could mop the floor with everyone. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. It depends if I don't know, if he could replicate his race winning Tier 1 pace on a weekly basis. Then for the other seeded drivers, it's the guys who finished the highest in the 2 tiers 2s last season. We got Mighty Mini Smiley, who did really well in the AMG. We got Prime Call, who did really well in the Lexus. And we've got Giles, who managed to get some good performances out of the Lamborghini Huracan. So Mighty Mini and Prime Call, this is Mighty Mini's 2nd season in a row in Tier 2. Prime Call's been in Tier 2 for quite a while now. Giles, former Tier 1 race winner as well, is in Tier 2 this time. And then plenty of people here have won races in Tier 2, even last season. Scotty has won last season. Arukis won a race last season. I won a race last season. I think X90G won a race as well. And then we've got Marty, who only competed a couple of times last season, but I'd say, is quicker than me, to be honest, if he could put a full season together. Higgsy had a bit of a rough one. He was on the bubble. Him and Pyro and Jack were all on the bubble for a relegation. But we know what Higgsy could do. He just had a rough season in the GR Supra. Pyro's earned his spot because he really put in some good performances last season in the McLaren in terms of the results, especially in the feature race. He finished 2nd in Daytona in the McLaren somehow. I still don't know how that happened. And we've got Jack, who has shown really good pace. He's set fastest laps in Tier 1 before. We know he's got the pace for it. And if he can keep it up throughout the season, he is definitely one that could challenge for the top spots on a regular basis. Then we've got Arfaxad, who was in my Tier 3 a couple of seasons ago, didn't race last season, and he's back as full-time this season, likes to take the odd season off, and he's back again. Did push me all the way to the championship in Season 17, so again, expecting big things from him. And then we've got our 2 Tier 3 champions, Whack Jamps and Fossey. Both of them ended up dominating, really, their Tier 3s last season in the end. Both of them won by quite a lot of points. So, should feel at home with this Tier 2, even as difficult as it might end up being. The reserves are going to be Bada Big, who I don't know if he's going to end up racing. He always signs up and doesn't race much. Maybe now that we've put him in Tier 2 instead of Tier 1, he might want to show up. We got Sick Boy back. You might remember Sick Boy. He's won Race of Champions. He did qualifying for the Spa 12 Hours. And he's always been in Tier 1, I think. So he's also giving Tier 2 a go for the first time. Asseldor is signed up as a reserve this season, and Inkyostrick, also known as Ares Gaming, is a reserve as well. Then we have Isaac, who's made his comeback after quite a while, I think a year potentially, off of racing in ALR. Starts out as a reserve on his comeback. And Henners, who unfortunately missed the deadline for sign-ups, is going to have to start out as a reserve as well. Henner's very quick, by the way. He was top 3, missed the last 2 rounds of last season, and dropped down a little bit. So he could have potentially been a seed in this tier in terms of his pace. Banned cars are the Jag, the GR Supra, the Porsche 911, the Lexus, and the Citroen. So some pretty good cars available still there, especially with like the GR Supra. And I think the Lexus isn't too good now as well. And no one really wants the Porsche with how it starts. So yeah, it's going to be difficult to pick a car when you've kind of a bit spoiled for choice here. Anyway, last but not least, oh, and also comms is going to be for BX, and I am the helper for this tier, and I'm also the lobby host. Now, tier 1. Big moment you've all been waiting for. Well, actually, some of you have probably dropped off the stream now because you know where you are in terms of tiers. But here we go. Here is what your tier 1 looks like. Plenty of drivers being promoted. Let's go through the seeded drivers first. We have Zico, our champion, BX Royal, our runner-up, and H Racing Green, who finished in 3rd place. All of them very deserved seeds. They were kind of ran away with it and gave each other a really good fight for the championship last time round. We've got Yannick, who always gets really good results pretty much every week, potentially the most consistent driver outside the top 3. And we've got Kellen as well, who we've made a seed because he's put in some potentially his best season last season in terms of his pace. I think they were in the McLaren, potentially. Were they in the McLaren? I'm going to say that they were in the McLaren and managed to use that to get some really good results. Then we got CMP making, he's almost always been in tier 1. He did a season in tier 2, but yeah, I think he could do very well in this tier 1, the way that it's looking with the pace that he's got. We got JR Latters making his full-time debut after joining as a reserve last season. Excited to see how he does because he's put in some really good qualifying results. Hasn't necessarily translated to his race results, but you know, when you're a reserve and in some funky car, that tends to be what happens. Anonymous survived the chop. He is in tier 1 once again. He was in the Jag with BX and put in some really good performances. Again, needs to find the tier 1 consistency. And Perry, once again, is going to be doing a season in tier 1. Then we've got our 2 champions. We've got Mortal Veloz and Hasnain, who both definitely could mix it. I wouldn't rule out either of them doing a challenge for the top 5 if they managed to put in the same kind of level of performances as they did last season. We've also promoted Sam, who did insane work in the Citroen, nearly won the Race of Champions. We've got a Rotikos making his debut in tier 1. So the only driver really making his debut in tier 1 this season, after finishing P2 to Mortal in the end in tier 2. He's got a bit of a new racing setup, but he's found a lot of pace clearly. So let's see if he can survive his season in tier 1 and stay here and become a regular feature, or if he ends up getting relegated again. Then we have Taz. Taz was a reserve last season. Again, another Peugeot driver. Really, what was interesting whether to put him in tier 1 or tier 2, but I think he's been a tier 1 before. He's done pretty well. And as a reserve in tier 2, he was always, pretty much every single race, at the front, competing with the top guys. So I do think that he could have a decent season here. And finally, we've got Senor Fak, who finished 3rd place in tier 2 last season. Tier 2 blue, that is, despite being in the Porsche. So this will be his 2nd overall season in tier 1. He's yo-yoing up and down at the moment. As for the reserves, got quite a lot of reserves this season. We've had a lot of people who did sign up specifically as a reserve, but we can't put them in tier 2 because they're all just too quick. So tier 1 should always have 15 drivers because we've got Arik Savi, Arik Slim, Alessandro, Capel, Keplero, Catfish, Distinct Raf, PZN, Lavatrice, and Carter, all as reserves for tier 1 this season. And all of them might be thinking right now, right, I might want to have a real go at the Reserves Championship. Comms is going to be by Vexed once again this season. Very pleased to have him doing some live comms and taking his time out every single Monday to give us some really quality racing and content there. And BX will be the helper and the lobby host. So that's it. We've gone through everything. What's going to happen next is I'll be, if I haven't already, putting you into your tiers so that you can start teaming up and discussing, you know, what you want to do for cars and what comes next. Please read what I post, because it is quite important, especially if you're new and you don't know how the car selection works. But yeah, apart from that, thanks for watching, guys, and yeah, I'll see you on the racetrack.